Hi there, welcome to this tutorial, this kind of a utility tutorial on Supercollider node messaging. It's kind of a slightly impenetrable phrase there, node messaging, but it's useful in Supercollider to communicate directly with a server. And what I mean by that, Supercollider has two bits to it. There's a server, goes all the way back to the beginning of digital audio and Max Matthews and his two parts where you have kind of a more hard-coded engine, audio engine that has these wrapped up functions, typical sort of audio functions like oscillators and envelopes and stuff like that. And then you have a language side or a score side, which you can generate kind of things in more musical terms, in terms of frequency, in terms of timing, rhythm, etc., etc. And Supercollider is divided that way, as are most languages dealing with digital audio. And so we have a server that does kind of all the hardcore audio processing, and we have a language side, which is a little bit more musical, I guess, or more musical terms, and they communicate with each other. Now, node messaging is just simply a different type of things where you can communicate directly with a server. Even though I'm doing it here on the language side, I could use any sort of OSC capable application and send these messages directly to the server. And the reason I'm introducing it here, or I'm using it, is because I'm going to start doing a series of tutorials using node messaging, and for the reason that it's slightly more accurate, you can it's a little bit more verbose, but you can be a little bit more precise in starting synths and then closing them, and especially in the sense of not writing over synths. So basically, with kind of like the language side things where you use variables and such, you can start 2 or 3 or 4 different synths and then lose track of them. They might be buried on the server somewhere, and you've replaced the variable and stuff like that. So node messages just gives us a slight bit more control, I suppose, even though it's slightly more verbose. But let's jump in and let me tell you what I mean. You might have something like we've done this before, hopefully, synth. Okay, and then you have the synth def name, whatever, a test. And then you have like a list of arguments in these things, and you might have a group here, and it might be something like that. Okay, now the node messaging version is S. You're going to send to your server s.send msg. Okay, and then you would have this tag s underscore new, and that would be a new synth. And then you'd give the synth def name test. And then you would have, I think it's the node number. So then you can assign it a node. You can any number really. Generally, I think they start at 1,000 automatically. So I'll just start them at 3,000 maybe. That would be assigned to node 3,000. And then there's a tag, and then there might be a group number that's at a node 2. So let's say I created some groups at node 200, and then there's a list of arguments. It's just the same, like freak. Okay, 400, something like that. Anyways, that's just to give you the idea that that is the same thing as that, essentially. It's just a different way of formatting that. Okay, and where we look these things up, we would look under server command reference, or we can look under OSC messaging, something like that. I forgot what the second one was, but let's look up server command reference. I think it's node messaging, OSC. Oh, sorry. If I do command D on it, server command reference, and it gives you kind of a very full-bodied look at all these things. And then I think there's a OSC messaging. This is not going to give me anything. OSC, or it's node messaging or something like that. Maybe it's node messaging. Yeah, node messaging. Okay, so that tells you some more things. And then there's server command reference and OSC. There is another one, OSC. OSC guides. List of OSC commands. Okay, let's do that. List of OSC commands. We'll put that in there, just in this list, so you have something to reference there. Okay, so you can look those three up, and that'll give you some things. All right, so just a couple real quick things. The way I won't belabor this too much, but I just want to introduce this to you. Okay, so let's go back to the server command reference. Okay. There. All right, so you see here I have a lot of these things, huh? Synth commands creating a new synth. So here we have the synth definition name test. We have a synth ID, which is your node. Okay, and you can look at the nodes. This seems like it's going to be super confusing, but hopefully you have a sense of what I'm talking about. But if you do, I didn't boot, so did I boot? Already boot. So if you do s.query all nodes, Supercollider is based on this node system. So each event or each process has its separate node. So it's a way of organizing the programming order of operations. So you can stick things in different nodes. So I think we've talked about groups before. Groups allows you to collect on the processing side, on the computing side, things in certain orders, right? So if you have a group of things that are your inputs, you're going to calculate all those things first. And then if you have another group of things that are, say, like effects or processing, you can send those to a group that comes after the inputs group. So you make sure the inputs get calculated first, and then the processing gets calculated second. And then you have an outputs group, which makes sure that it gets calculated after all the processing and the inputs take place. Okay, so you have this node kind of thing, and so this way you can have assign things a specific node number. So I suppose if we can very quickly make a synth-def and give it a name test, and then give it some kind of sign out.ar sign osc.ar. Okay. And then .add. Okay, so we can do that really quick. Let me make this a little bit wider so we can see all that on one thing. Okay, and we don't need it quite this big, do we? Okay, so yeah, if I said that synth-def, oops. Oh, sorry, synth-def here. Oh dear. AR0. The channel is not right. Okay, synth-def. And then if I want to start a new test at 3000, there's no freak. We can put there is no frequency. Okay. So this is start a node at 3000. Now the 0 is this add action, so you can add it to the head of the node on 0, 1 to the tail of the 0, 2 just before the node specified at the target, 3 after the node specified, or 4. Okay, and then this is target. This is the group, or so. So let's actually we kind of jumped the gun. So let's make a group using this node messaging as well. So I think that's s.send msg, and I think it's called g_new. Is it? So we can look here, g_new. Right, create a group. Okay, so we see that the group ID, so you can give it a node number, and then you can add an action, like you can add it before or after a group. So let's go ahead and add a new group. So we'll call this 200, for example. Okay, and then let's do another one, and we'll add a group after 200. So g_new, and then it'll be 201, and it'll be 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. It's a tag. So we're going to send it to just after, so that'll be a 3. You see this here, 3, just at new group after the node specified by the target ID, which will be our next argument. So 3, that'll be after the target ID, and then it'll be after 200. Okay? So we do that, and then we go query all nodes. You'll see we have a group 200, and then we have the group 201 after that. So again, it's very similar to the way we do it before. The way we did it before was we said something like g=group.new, and then it was the target, that's your server, and then you had an add action or of some sort, but oftentimes we just do that. And then we'd say h=group.after, and then it would be g, something like that. Okay, so that would be the same thing, except this then would give it would auto assign the server would auto assign the node numbers, right? So you have group 1000 and 1001. Okay, so this way you can kind of control exactly what you're doing there. Right, it's a little bit more specific. You can give it a certain node number. Okay, so I'm kind of rushing through this because I feel like I'm going to get bogged down in too many things. But just to you understand this sense of node messaging, because I'm going to be doing a number of tutorials using this type of node messaging. Okay, so this is now we can actually start this sine oscillator, this synth test here. We're going to give it a node 3000. We're going to add it to that group 200. Oops. So if we do that, we get that. Okay, so we get that there. All right, and to kill a node, you just go s.send msg, and it'll be n underscore free, and then give the node number, which is 3000. Okay, but here let me start that again and then show you the node tree. We added that test synth there to the group 200. You see how that got? So it's a little bit more specific, and you could target these nodes, and then we can free it. All right. Now, one more time. So the nice thing about this is if I try to create another thing at 3000 again, it says duplicate node ID. It's not going to let me do it. Okay. Whereas what the situation I was talking about before, if I did a equals synth, okay, and then test. Synth test, right? I can do that. It's going to create a test. If I hit it again, it's going to create another one, 1003. So now you have two tests, 1002 and 1003. And if I do a.free, it only kills the latest one, but I can't, now it's inaccessible to me. I can't get to that. The one I overdid, the 1002. Here you can do it specifically, free that node. Okay, so it gives you a little bit more control specifics. Now we're going to do things like presets and be doing things with controllers and creating synths and ending them on the fly. So it's nice to be able to target a certain node ID to say I'm going to create a synth at that node ID, and I'll know it can't be overwritten or can't be duplicated or lost in the system somehow. And then I can target that specific ID to free it or to do things. Okay, and really quickly now, because there's tons of stuff we could do, but just so you understand that this is a different syntax, I guess, a different vernacular for doing creating things directly with a server. We can do a s.send message, and then we can do n underscore set, and that's for setting the argument. So it'd be like freak 200 or amp, just like we would do normally. One, something like that. Okay, and that would be the same as like a.set if a was a synth, and then it would just be a list of pairings of argument names and values. Okay, but that's the same thing here as that is. Okay, so there's a number of things like that. Creating buffers here, you can do groups, and you can allocate, you can read sound files, you can do all these. Now, another nice thing about these what we call like server commands, or let's see, a node messaging, however you want to call it, or server messaging. Then one of the nice things about this is you can send actually these messages from any program. You don't have to send it from within Supercollider's Lang side. You can send it from processing or from Max or from PD, just as long as it has this format. Now S we know is a server, but basically if you're sending it from an outside program, you have your IP address, which whatever that is, you're the host, the computer that the SE server is sitting on, and then you have the generally almost all the time it's the port 57110. Okay, so if you send something to say whatever IP this is, I don't know what my IP is, but for example 127.0.0.1 with your messaging app and port number 57110, then you just send a list of you send your tag is going to be s underscore new, like that. Okay, and then you send a string, that's test, right? And then you send, your list of 3,000, etc., etc. And if you send that message there from another app, it'll be the same as that. Okay, so you can just communicate directly with a SE server. And I know some people I know just do that now. They don't bother even going into SE Lang. They use another app and they just start up the server, SE server, and then just node message it directly, and you can do that. Okay, but anyways, this is just a really quick and dirty introduction, just so you know this exists, and I'll be going kind of using this methodology in some of my tutorials. Okay, so a brief introduction there, and hopefully this is a little bit useful.